What's up, guys? Rai Guy here. I was just on tour and I'm working on building my voice back. I took a few days off, and this is a systematic lesson to get up to a belt, especially for people who are having a tough time really getting strength and control in their voice up there, and they feel like every little half step higher gets a little bit harder. I remember this struggle, guys. So I'm right there with you. So I'm working on it right now. And this is what I do before any explanation. I'm going to start with a proper warm up. The way that we're going to be using the voice, especially like in a belt and in a scream, is you want to make sure that you're warmed up and that the vocal cords are nice and thin. So first thing, a lot of people know the lip rolls. We're going to change them a little bit. Everybody seems to blow a whole lot of air through. What I want to do is, because excessive airflow is going to be a problem when singing, belting, and getting through our bridge, is actually bring it back. So it's just enough air to get your lips to flutter, and it's just enough air to get the vocal cords to come together. So how are you going to do that? Also, if you could push up, kind of make sure it's a little bit floppy, that just helps the flutter. So instead of brrr, it's nice and easy. Now, I'm not going to do the scales up and down. Start with that. Start getting it thinned out as you're getting a little bit higher. Don't push. Just kind of like ease. See if you can smooth out the really, really high parts of your range. Just go up and down. Then when that gets comfortable, I do a low larynx one. Another thing that we need to battle when belting and screaming is making sure that this larynx doesn't shoot up, which it's so hard to do. That takes a lot of control. So then we take the lip roll and we just go... We do it there instead of here. And then the very last one is adding a little bit of head on top of it, like a head voice. So you get just a little bit more air through the nose. So that usually sets me up to now start getting into one of my problems, one of a lot of people's problems is their vocal cords aren't properly closed, and as they get higher and higher, the little like openness, we add even more air. The air kind of shakes the cords a little bit and presses down, and it puts the larynx in a upper position, and everything starts getting like a little bit tense. So what we actually want to do is, instead of vocal cords apart and airflow, we want to start with the vocal cords already closed, and they're just making a little space, just enough for the tiniest bit of airflow to go through and make a sound. The way to do that is on consonants like ga and ba. So if you take ga, ga, or ba, now ba starts with no airflow. That's what makes it a B. If it had airflow, it would be a p, pa, pa, pa. That's the difference between a B and a P. So anything that starts, you can almost feel like ga, ga, if you really, really slow that process down. So nice and light. Ga, 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 ga. Ga, 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 ga. And I really want you to focus on staying, how I would say, like, if that's the G, there's like no breath here, ga, right? Okay, it's kind of a weird visual, but if that's the G, what happens if we keep extending, if we like really extend the ga, right? And then we end up back in this area that we want to stay away from. We want to stay just on this side. So the way to do it is shorten the length of the ga, 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 and focus more on the G. Stay true to that G. What's going to happen is that G is going to start turning into a K as we get higher. It's going to sound like this. Ga, 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 ga. And that just shows that in those parts of your voice, when you get up into the bridge, you're not properly keeping the vocal cords engaged, and they're coming out a little bit, and with every note, they kind of pop out a little bit more, and it gets a little bit harder until, and it just turns into a falsetto. We want to stay just on the other side of this G. When that happens, you get this. Ga, 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 ga. Ga, 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 ga. And then it almost starts moving up. Now, you don't want to hold on too much. You want to let it drift up. So if you have to kind of like puberty crack into it, ga, 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 ga. Ga, 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 ga. Ga, 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 ga. All I'm doing is staying on that G. I'm extending that G. Ga, 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 ga. When you get used to it, holding that back, you're actually like almost holding the air back in. If you listen, it's almost like if somebody takes a drag of a cigarette and then they kind of start talking to you like this, all right, and all that air is kind of like held in. We don't want excessive airflow, and we don't need it because the vocal cords are so close together that they can't get that much air through them. All right, so what happens? Now it'll find its way, so that's a C sharp. It'll find its way mixing into your head voice. Like if you can hear if I do this, that sounds mostly in chest. If I switch up here, you don't have to think of any crazy switching to head voice. You're just staying relaxed and open. Okay, ga, ga has a very open feel to it, but you're staying true to the consonant G. Now you can do the same thing with B if that works. Ba 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 ba. Ba 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 ba. Ba 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 ba. Now what's going to happen is because those are keeping the vocal cords closed. So if I do this, ba, all right? If I want to keep them closed, ba, it's almost like you're fighting yourself just a little bit. You don't want to put that much pressure on it, but you're kind of, you could feel that almost like you're going to the bathroom. You feel that, and you kind of push back. Now, if you really want to lean in, I don't recommend doing this too much if it hurts and if it's building up too much pressure, because everything wants to be really loose up here. But if you can keep it open, I kind of go like that. And you could hear that is just pulled back. Now, there's no resonance on top of that, because that's just getting you used to that. So I have some students that go around just kind of getting used to holding the breath in, just like they've just like taken a drag. Let's say a joint, not a cigarette. So that's like a huge thing, B and G. Now, what's going to happen is as you get higher, it's going to expose, right? Stay on that beat. Does not matter what happens. I would rather, you're not sure where it's supposed to go. What happens is as we get close to the bridge, we start to change things. And it's actually like a mental game. That's what I love about this, is all the muscles are already there. All you have to do is coordinate them mentally. You don't have to like really build up like they used to, like old school classical and opera singing. The muscles are already there. Now they're going to get toned up as you get used to this, and that's why guys like the Deftones and the dude from like Linkin Park and shit can do this kind of stuff when it gets to screaming so much. But the muscles are already there. Okay, so really really small. Don't let it go. Voice is a little scratchy there. It's all there. And now once you get that, if I take this back to an A, I can really, really lean in because I already have my vocal cords are closed, and I can breathe in just a little bit more to it, but we want to start with that being closed. Okay, so now but you don't want to build a lot of pressure right here, okay? Even though that may kind of sound the same, you still want this to be really free. So one thing that I do is I have the person stick their tongue out, and then the next exercise is ba 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 ba. Now the ba and the gas give you a kickoff place, right? Because So that's where you really want to find, like we're saying, we're just on the other side of that. So if you can start on the other side of that and not start, it's and really get like an open sound, that's how you're going to get it. One last point is whenever you see, I think like Christina Aguilera, and there was one performance by Jessica Simpson too. I remember that because she had something on her vocal cord. I think she popped a blood vessel, and she could like barely talk, but because the coordination when singing is so much better than it is when we're speaking, they're able to hold high notes for so long. Now the reason is we're breathing in, and instead of going ha and letting all that air out, we're breathing in, we're going and kind of holding it there. Now I'm like really holding it, my voice is a little wavery, but really holding the air in. It's like breathing, like blowing into a balloon, and just letting a tiny little bit out, and it makes that squeaking sound. And if you let it all out, it's just, so that's the other control that we want. So 2 really great exercises that I do for that is breathe in all the way, and then a little bit more, and then let it out. That just stretches the diaphragm a little bit. The diaphragm won't really get stretched unless you exercise it. Like if you've already been running during the day or something. The reason is because, especially when we're speaking or just general breathing, we're usually doing top 20% of our lung breathing. So you want to engage the bottom part of your lungs. So that opens up, then you hold the breath in, and the vocal cords are closed, because you won't be able to hold the breath in if you're kind of floating on that like, there's nothing holding it closed. So you want to get that little, there's almost like a little grunt. And that's where you want to be. Now, if you hold in too much, if you pull in too much air, it's just hard to control. That's kind of why my voice was wavering before. So that's one major factor. Now, when this starts coming in, you just get it. One last part that I love doing is I put my hands, I have students take their hands like this, and just like your rib cage kind of comes up right here, push in. So in between like the 2 parts of your ribs, right in your sternum, push in as hard as you can. Go. Huh, huh. Your stomach should push your hands out. If it's not, you're not engaging the diaphragm properly. Now, one really awesome thing to do is I do a tribal grunt, and it's really, really great. Tribal grunt shows you how to go from open to really, really closed and then push through it. So this is the last part of the video. If this is uncomfortable, I want you to try it a couple times, but if it's like really uncomfortable, excuse me guys, I've had a bit of a cold. If it is really uncomfortable, don't do it too much. But so the first thing is, so you're closing off, okay? You're engaging the vocal cords, and then you're closing that breath off, and then I want you to fight through it a little bit. So it goes like this. Hey! 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 So once that vocal cord's closed, you can even lean into it and not let any air out, okay? That's how you're holding back. Hey! All right, I want you to really, really feel where that is. Now, if I do this, hey! 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 There is no pressure on my voice because all of the pressure is down here. If I try to blow through that, that's going to like really, really, really hurt my vocal cords. So that is the full body way to get a good belt, and then eventually, your scream and however you want to really lean into it. We're going to get into the screaming part a little bit more because it's the same pressure. Hey! Hey! It's just that's your vocal cords, and then the scream is just your false cords up here. If you've ever heard somebody, unfortunately, get their larynx taken out from like smoking cigarettes, cancer, basically. If they get that out, they talk with these up here. And then you can train those to close. Wow! ow, okay? And that's the same pressure that we're building up from a scream to a belt. And then also the best part is we can go back and sing lighter. If you guys are Deftones fans, he does that a lot. He's got a great softer tone because he's using the same technique. So I hope all of that helps. Don't do anything dangerous. So guys, please ask me questions if you want to kind of continue with this video. I definitely would like to continue with it, and let's see if that works.